Greetings, Agent. Accessing system. Opening, that time we woke up in a podcast and had to explain manga. Our heated adventures over analyzing manga we find interesting. Codename, the OverMangaCast. Now opening communications.
Greetings, agents. This week, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is Spy X Family, written by one Tatsuya Endo. I've prepared a dossier in the following transcript of chapters 1 through 18, which should give you enough foreknowledge before you dive in, bringing you just about to the end of the Stellar Star arc. Good luck, agents, and always remember, who is number one?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the OverMangaCast. My name is Sam, and familiarity with this particular property, I had next to none until I watched a Mother's Basement video, and Jeff Thu was like, yeah, no, this manga is really good. You should check it out. It's funny and cute. And I'm like, all right. And we put it on the reading list, and it was funny, and it's cute. And now we're going to talk about it a whole bunch. Jacob, what was your familiarity with Spy X Family up to now?
Honestly, even less. I had absolutely no idea anything about this going into it. Totally cold read for me.
All right, Jay, how about you?
I probably had the least amount of exposure compared to anyone on the podcast because even when we were discussing what we were going to read next, I had never heard this. Does not enter anywhere of my ethosphere. And so I was going on completely blind. And yeah.
Oh, yeah. Matt here. I guess I have the most experience somehow in that I saw a few of the reaction images of this posted, and I had someone recommend this manga to me specifically with the phrase, "This is the best manga in Shonen Jump that is never going to get an anime." And I'm like, oh, cool. That's something I'm going to read at some point. And then I never did that until I had a manga discussion podcast. So.
It is a bloody tragedy that this will probably never get an anime.
I know that phrasing is true just because of the way, Shonen Jump is known for battle manga and those getting animes, and this is very much not that, but man, this is a show.
If only because we need to actually hear with our ears how cute Anya is. We open up in a kind of Cold War setting.
We're essentially in West-East Germany with all of the serial numbers filed off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They do the bare minimum. Like, you see some place called Hamburg, but with, one letter removed.
They're not even ultra clear about the dates, because I think the Iron Curtain is still up, but...
They literally mention the Iron Curtain at one point, yeah.
They say since the Iron Curtain was raised... With the aesthetic implies that it's the time period where it would still be in existence, but they never really address it directly.
It's a very apolitical spy fiction. We don't even know who our main character, essentially, you can assume based on how he looks and the general portrayal as a hero, but other than that, you really don't know who he's working for. A lot of the spy versus spy stuff is kind of framed as being arbitrary. It doesn't really matter which side. It just matters that both sides are currently equal, because one side getting the advantage is bad.
This is the Cold War. It's an incredibly tense political situation with a very tenuous peace.
The one big distinction, which is actually super important for the character dynamics that they do make between the two sides, is, at least from what the audience is told, because if this gets subverted at some point in the future, I would not be shocked. The side of our main character, Twilight, his side wants to prevent a war between the two countries, whereas the person that he's going after to gather intelligence from, he's specifically depicted as a warmonger. That's kind of important for the character dynamics going forward once we establish the main trio.
We open up with our dashing spy hero, the greatest spy in all of Westalis, I believe it's called, the Great Twilight, who is a master of disguise, so masterful, in fact, that He is on page from like panel 1 and we don't even realize it.
It's a Mission Impossible mask.
We start in media res with him in the middle of a mission. He is supposedly handing off some incriminating blackmail on a prime minister to
he's receiving
foreign
it.
agents.
He's receiving it. This is going to be one of the extremely few complaints that I have, but that sequence was not well paneled because I had no idea what was going on.
It is a little confusing.
It's not really even there to be meant to be understood, though. It's really what you're supposed to take away from that scene is, wow, Twilight's such a cool spy.
He's so cool.
Which indeed is in its own way praise. Because that's probably the worst thing that I can say about this whole thing. And it's almost a backhanded compliment anyway, so...
Man, this man's name is Twilight, but he operate like a nightcast. And there's my one exalted joke for the episode. Moving on.
If we can limit you to one.
But we also very quickly established the tone in this because Twilight, was intercepting this blackmail about the prime minister of the insert country here. And it was shots revealing that the prime minister wears a toupee.
It's sort of like inherently silly in the way that it's framed, but it's also like if you read it as a metaphor, like this could be the opening of like a thrilling spy drama. And they start off talking about like political assassination, starting a war that could erupt not just into a regional war, but a world war. And then the blackmail photos are of a toupee coming off, and that's apparently enough to get the guy to resign. Like they're very clear about how seriously you're supposed to take this very early on.
And it is delightful in that. I'll say up front, this manga does a very good job of balancing, because it is a comedy, it is a slice of life comedy before anything else. And it does a good job of balancing that while also, having the characters involved in some fairly heavy topics.
Oh, yeah. And like the thing that struck me about this, the emotional stakes of the characters feel like high drama. You are so, or at least I was, so invested in these people's lives and seeing, their hopes and dreams unfold. But man, it does not take itself seriously internally. And it is riotously funny. I think it was the previous episode or maybe the one before that where I mentioned sometimes I don't phrase things particularly well. The tone of this story is very not serious, but it's so well crafted and internally consistent that like it grabs you and makes you feel right from the very beginning.
It is non-stop in terms of plot advancement, which is kind of rare for a slice of life, because our boy Twilight, he finishes this mission almost immediately as he is throwing away the false identity that he had for this mission, gets contacted by the Westalis Internal Intelligence Special... I don't know, but the acronym is WISE.
Right before he gets that mission, an important bit is part of his disguise was being engaged to the man he was disguised as daughter. And we cut to them being at dinner and him breaking up with her as she thinks he's going to propose.
It's so brutally casual.
So nonchalant, and he's just like, yeah, so, and she poses the question, like, we've been dating for a while, so when are you going to, move to the next level? I think we should break up. Deadpan.
Our conversations reveal that you're not a very intelligent person, and that's really what I'm looking for. So
he says almost exactly that, and he's not even looking her in the face. Like, it is so.
And the big thing is, as he's walking away from that, he throws away the glasses he was wearing, because that was his disguise. And with that, everything attached to that is equally thrown in the trash. He is moving on to the next thing because he is a man who is dedicated to his country. A wife, children, family, all of those things are completely beyond me. And because this is a comedy manga, guess what his mission is?
The next mission, Operation Strix. He has to get close to the warmongering far-right political leader of the nation of Estonia. And in order to get near this reclusive man, he has to integrate himself into the social circles of an elite private school. So he needs a family.
He specifically needs to find a wife and make a child in the next week.
Yeah.
Yep.
Something that I really wanted to say about earlier was that you guys seem really invested in Twilight and you seem to really like how they approached his background and really how it kind of draws you in. I didn't feel that in the beginning. I felt kind of really detached just because, I don't know, in my mind, he seemed as more of like a job man. So it's just kind of like, oh, he's going from plot to plot to plot. His motivation for even pursuing this line of work is very vague and not very specific. Obviously, I ended up liking the reading we did, but it took me a while to kind of get any connection to Twilight, just because for me, from my point of view, it seemed like he was just so detached as a character, purposely detached, but it was just kind of.
That's a valid interpretation, actually. Like, if you go through the characterization of Twilight initially, you can either read into what he's saying, like he's speaking like very heartfelt in his internal monologue, or you can read his internal monologue as all business, and you get two drastically different pictures of him.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was just like, oh, so, it took me a while to kind of warm up to him, because I was like, okay, this is obviously just another job for him. And the shenanigans kind of just was more surrounding him. Insert whatever character you want here.
Also, when he dumps his fiance, he dumps her hard.
Yeah.
And I actually sided with the girlfriend there, because her entire everything shattered, because obviously she still doesn't have an explanation.
Yeah, she was clearly invested in the relationship.
And the fact that he shed the facade right in front of her is just kind of it makes you question everything. It's like, not only is he not who he said he was, is anything what it seems. What it seems.
And that's kind of a big theme of this manga. It literally opens with a brief monologue about how everybody has a hidden self that they don't present to anybody, not even those closest to them.
But is that true, or is that just a dialogue that they're trying to really push? Because there are a lot of moments where Twilight has these asides where he assumes obviously everyone is masking, everyone's hiding, everyone has some kind of, not trauma, but some kind of difficult
or ulterior motive, at least.
Yes.
I think that's kind of the crux of Twilight, or his character development, is, realizing the thin veneer of peace, everybody wears a mask. That isn't always the case. And you need to sometimes just learn to trust. I do want to address what Jay said about, getting invested in him right off the start. I am with you a bit on not being super invested in him as a character, but him as the vehicle for the story, at least in the very beginning. By the end of chapter 1, which was a super extended long, pilot chapter,
I saw the page count and my heart sank. I was terrified for a second until I checked ahead.
Well, welcome to Shonen Jump. Their first chapters are normally 75, and then their second chapters are normally around 50, because they get you hooked on the first two chapters, and then
it goes down to between 20 and 30. Yeah, it's just, I had forgotten that.
But in the first 3/4, I'll say, of chapter 1, I'm basically with Jay at that point, that I'm not super invested in Twilight as a person. I was more interested in him as a vehicle for the story and the incoming shenanigans. By the end of it, when we get a bit of his backstory, I was like, okay, I can see where the hooks of an interesting character are in here.
Yeah, that is actually a really important point, because I think I did say something to the effect of I was sucked in by the characters right away. Twilight is a character who, there's a delicate narrative balance that the mangaka has to strike, of making all of the characters' deceptions equally sympathetic. And what I mentioned about it being important that the country that Twilight works for is trying to stop an imminent war, as opposed to just trying to advantage should a war come. He has a moral high ground. Thanks, Notice, for learning me stuff about spies. His backstory is very fitting of a spy, but it's not really until he interacts with other characters. He is the cool guy spy.
And the number one thing of his comedy notes in this are him being this cool, suave character reacting to the absolute absurdity that he has found himself accidentally in. He goes off on his mission. He gets his one family apartment. He talks up about how much he loves his family to the guy he buys the apartment from, and then immediately goes to the sleaziest orphanage he can find.
Because there'll be less paperwork.
And the guy who runs this orphanage looks like Mario after Peach took everything in the divorce.
Also, it implies there are several orphanages of equal status in this city, which makes sense.
Remember, this is Europe, and it's also not
Eastern Europe, too.
Yeah, it's that side of the Iron Curtain is the thing. So yeah, that.
Like, I think occasionally this, the way we're set, we see like the high society parts. I think we're skimming over occasionally how down some of the areas are, but this orphanage is essentially, he walks in, goes, "I would like to buy one child, please, but only if they can read and write."
Like, yeah, I think I got a kid over here for you. I'll get rid of the really creepy one.
I'm just saying, there's no background check. What are your intentions for these children?
I wonder how this man came into all these children.
But this is where we meet the best character in the entire manga, Anya.
Little Anya sitting in front of the TV watching her spy show.
Yeah.
Oh my god, Anya.
She is precious small beeb.
I will fight anyone and everyone to protect her.
I've only known Anya for 17 chapters. If anything happened to her, I'd kill everyone in this room and then myself.
She is very clearly going to be our next main character in this because she fits everything Twilight needs to a T. She can read and write. Interestingly, she appears to be a little young for what he's looking for. He needs someone who is age 6 because that is the entry requirements to...
He very much wants to leave with him.
Yeah, the academy. And unfortunately, Anya appears to be only 4 or 5.
That's actually one sort of important thing. Anya actually has the most mysterious backstory of any of the characters we've been introduced to up to this point. She's definitely scrawnier than the other 6-year-olds when she's put against the other, but like she could also just be scrawny. Like we don't know anything about
But she's been rehomed so many times because this is like her 3rd or 4th family.
I think it's the 4th time she's been taken.
Yeah, and we don't know why. Like, do people mysteriously disappear?
That's in the background check on her, actually. When they find out she's been to multiple homes. The big thing we find out about Anya that I'm amazed we've talked about her this much and not gone into, she can read minds, which is interesting because every question Twilight answers to her, she gives the exact answer that gets her out of this orphanage, which I don't think she's 6 then. Because she immediately says 6 because that's the number Twilight needed to hear to take her out of the orphanage.
The only thing we know from a brief flashback that Anya has is that she was experimented on by some weirdos and now she's a telepath.
And like when it comes down to things like her like mental development, things like her ability to read and write, it's kind of impossible to guess her age since she can read the minds of adults, gain massive amounts of information on people. She can act like she's 20 at times. Mm-hmm. And then alternatively, she acts, whatever her actual age is. And it's really hard to get a read on her, funnily enough.
She is incredibly incorrigible that like even the hard-hearted super spy Twilight begins acquiescing to her demands near immediately because he's like, "You will call me father," as the elite do. And she goes, "Papa." And he says, "Very well."
The reason Anya wants so desperately to go with Twilight is because she reads his mind immediately, goes, "Wait a second, this guy's a spy? So cool.
Spies are so cool, just like my favorite cartoon." And that is the sole reason she goes with him. There's a few touch and go moments where, she isn't as competent as her initial interview with Twilight suggests because, she does just read the answers that he wants to hear out of his head.
There are moments where her telepathy makes Twilight question his choice. He thinks something in passing to himself about how crowds are dangerous because enemies could be lurking, and Anya runs.
Yeah, at one point, a character we will meet in the future, who is also precious and amazing, is commenting, "Oh, she's so cute, like my little brother. I need to be careful when hugging her, though. I once broke my little brother's ribs from hugging him too hard." And Anya immediately runs. Twilight, being the responsible new dad that he is, takes her home and then immediately leaves the 6-year-old child unsupervised so he can go and meet up with his spy contacts.
Well, first he takes his little girl shopping because his house currently has nothing in it.
He's in full spy mode at this point. Like, he's not even really put on the mask because, like, he tells Anya that I'm adopting you to get, you're getting out of the orphanage and living with me now, but you have to say that I've always been your father. One thing that I love that this series was able to do, the 3 principal characters, they're upfront with the person who would be most betrayed if the lie came out. Twilight never says to Anya, I'm actually adopting you as my actual child. Like, he's very upfront with it about it. Because he's upfront, you basically avoid that melodrama. they find a way for these characters who are lying about so much to each other, the important things that they don't lie about, unless they're lying to themselves, because Twilight becomes her actual dad so fast.
I mean, she accepts him as her actual dad, like, immediately when they get home from shopping, because he's so tired from doing everything. He crawls up onto the couch to fall asleep for a bit, and she's just like,
curls up in his arms.
Cuddles.
It's so cute, man.
Immediately he freaks out.
Oh, my other favorite part, too, is when they're shopping, and she goes, Papa, I want a silenced pistol. Maybe if we find one on sale.
Because she knows he's a spy, she means a real one.
She's really cute. She immediately jumps into this, because the big thing about Anya, she also needs to lie, because the one thing we get from her flashback is the scientist telling her, never let anyone know you can read their minds, or else they'll think you're weird and get rid of you.
Planted that in her mind.
This seems to be deliberate obfuscation from the audience. We don't know if she got her powers from the lab that she was being experimented at, or if she was at that lab because she had. Either way, they were experimenting on this small child. Letting people know that you're supernatural is a really quick way to get yourself, kidnapped by mad scientists.
Yeah, and basically, to wrap up the father-daughter time we get, they come home, and because Twilight is so tired from just wandering around from crowds, we also get the scene a bit that Anya does not like crowds because there are so many people around her. She is constantly hearing their thoughts.
Over mental stimulation.
She's got a cute little nosebleed from, like, this is too much.
She does seem to be able to focus on, like, drowning out things that she doesn't need to hear, but she's also very, very young, so she doesn't have particularly good control over her powers yet.
Unfortunately, this overstimulation, this situation is easily explainable because, people can be overwhelmed and afraid of crowds.
Mm-hmm. And that's how Twilight and later another character will read these reactions when they see them.
First step of Operation Strix, get Anya into Eden Academy, which shouldn't be that hard because she just needs to have the answers drilled into her head.
Well, she already said she can read and write. I mean, that's already spectacular.
And she's just planning to read minds.
Yep.
That doesn't go as well, but...
there are a bunch of cases where, like, Anya is be studying for a test and I'll just read the minds of the other kids.
The other kids are just as stupid and ill-prepared as you are.
Because what we get, we kind of steamroll through her application into Eden Academy. She has to take a test in a class. She basically doesn't do any of this. She does a little bit of the studying that Twilight eventually forces her to do. But then she goes in going like, I'm a genius. I'll just read everyone's minds. She does not understand the pass rate for this school is like 1 in 100. So of the 100 people in the room she's taking the test with, 99 are also idiots.
I can't allow us to go any further without commenting on something. Twilight's pseudonym that he's operating under is Lloyd Forger.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah.
The spy is using the surname of Forger.
That's a legitimate surname. I don't understand. I would totally trust.
Surnames are always referred to by your profession.
Yeah.
We get another ridiculous example of this in a bit. But yeah, Anya barely passes the exam to get in. Like, literally just above the failing rate.
Yeah, we're not told what the scale is.
It's a 31.
It's a low score, but it is enough to get her, like, into the next step.
To an interview or whatever.
But unfortunately, there is a requirement that comes with the in-person interview. Both parents must be in attendance.
Yes.
And we do not have a wife. There is no mama.
What? There is no mama.
And when Lloyd, air quotes, goes out to try and solve this problem, Anya, in her eternal incorrigibleness, decides that she wants to play with the cool spy toys. And accidentally broadcasts on all channels, Twilight is here, catch me if you can.
Yeah, I don't know how on accident that was. That seemed very on purpose. It's less so that she did it on accident.
Consequences of her actions.
Yep.
Which honestly is why I say she's such a well-written child character. She's able to pick the intelligence of people much smarter than her by reading their minds, but she's still a little kid.
She also purposefully sets up enemy spies to attack their home. So she is kidnapped, so daddy has to save her.
Twilight very masterfully takes out the home invaders who were left behind for him so that they could gank him, but they got Anya and they took her away.
He disguises as one of the thugs to
infiltrate the scene.
This honestly, I think, is probably the point where Twilight shifts as a character from being an interesting, Bond type character to being more emotionally engaging, because he even points out in his own mind, there's a panel of someone sneaking up on Twilight, and it's framed in such a way to make it seem like, he got knocked out, and the minion who had snuck up on him is dragging in someone unconscious with a bag over their head. And it turns out the guy with the bag over his head is the actual minion. Twilight had a Mission Impossible mask on. And in his internal monologue, he points out, I literally just could have walked away and found another kid. Why am I doing this?
And that's when he has his flashback to when he himself was a small child in a rubble-strewn, war-torn street, all alone with no one to come help him when he was alone and scared. And that's why he does this spy gig. He wants to create a world of peace where children don't have to cry in fear like, I believe it. And he's not going to let this little girl be in that situation.
Yeah, it's basically anyone but the children. What was that? I'm getting flashbacks to Adventure Times. I'm going to rescue everyone, but only the babies.
I think the first really effective emotional scene was when he evaluates why he's doing not this particular action of saving Anya, but why he's a spy in the first place. That was the point where I was sucked in, and Spy X Family had completely sold me. I ultimately want Anya and Twilight to be honest with each other, because they are already family, and in a lot of ways, a lot of their quirkiness actually kind of benefits and supports each other.
I know, and that's why, internally, I'm screaming, because it's ridiculous how all of their traits and their strengths complement each other. It's come on, if you were just open with each other, you'd be like, wow, this is the ideal situation in any circumstance.
But we got to keep up the hijinks generating deceit.
Speaking of hijinks generating deceit, let's go into the 70s sitcom plotline we have of I need a wife by tomorrow. In the next 48 hours, I need to marry a woman.
I need to have been married to someone since a year ago in 48 hours.
Yeah, that's the one thing unrelated of there's no, I understand the whole two-parent thing, but in the situation that he puts forward, his wife died, what happens if you have a death and there is only one of you?
Well, then you're not good enough for Eden Academy. Maybe you shouldn't have died, loser.
I'm just saying, Eden Academy, that 100% tracks. You would say, oh, an unmarried man? How unelegant.
Uh-huh.
His wife died trying to preserve his elegance.
Well, see,
sounds like she wasn't elegant enough. Try again, loser.
Yeah, see, that sort of gets into another through line. Funnily enough, if this was handled inelegantly, it would be a serious problem with the story. There's this push of ultra conservative traditional family values. An unmarried woman gets carted away by the secret police because she's 30 years old and doesn't have a boyfriend.
That is pretty suspicious.
And that
She's probably a spy. I think the main thing is people are so concerned about espionage in this country that anyone who is not 100% average is viewed as suspicious.
It is a witch hunt.
Yep. That's where we meet your Briar, an unassuming public worker.
Oh, I just realized her last name's Briar.
Yes.
Yeah. I will admit it took me a long time to catch that too. Yeah, your Briar, also incredibly precious, and I would say must be protected at all cost, but boy, she does not need the help.
She does need to be protected at all costs. She's just too naive.
We had the side story of people trying to protect her, and it was completely unnecessary.
Yeah, that's the important distinction. She needs to be emotionally protected.
Yeah, not physically, no.
Because after we have a brief scene of her interacting with her mean girl coworkers.
Oh my god, I hate those people.
They be catty and they are the worst.
I kind of wish they didn't go as far with the cattiness, because
there's no sympathy, like, at all. There's no reasonable doubt. There's no, these people are horrible.
I think that's also playing into how naive Yor is as a person, because she genuinely doesn't understand these people are just mocking her, is the big thing. They invite her to the party to make fun of her.
And in the latest bid to embarrass her, they're like, oh, why don't you come to the party with your boyfriend? You have one of those, right? And she's like, yeah, totally.
But Yor does not have a boyfriend. I mean, she doesn't really have a lot of time to date. Her job keeps getting in the way. You don't exactly have a lot of spare time when you're a contract killer. She is best girl, though.
Sam, you mentioned in the Chainsaw Man episode all the Russian assassins you've been dating. Is there something you need to tell us?
But no, Jacob, there is nothing I need to tell you about this, because Yor is, she is a contract killer. She is the Thorn Princess.
Yeah, I just connected briars and thorns. I'm sorry. Not sorry.
I didn't connect it at all until I heard someone read Briar out loud. So
Yeah.
It took me longer than I like to admit.
And one of my favorite things about Yor is as an assassin, she kills a lot of people, but it's always done in like a comedic kind of way.
It is done in a slapsticky cartoon kind of way. Like, later on, there is a side story where in the course of her contract assassin work, she gets shot in the ass.
Oh, yeah.
She took a bullet to the booty.
The big thing, though, is Yor's assassination work does not really get covered in the series, the main series. The only times we see her actively be like a assassin, other than her introduction, is side stories.
Mm-hmm.
Though the thing about that I think is super important, because again, due to all of the deception swirling around all these characters, keeping them all sympathetic and keeping you all liking them and none of them like crossing any kind of lines is really important. So like assassin, that's an automatically like really negative and dirty and unlikable thing. But they also make it pretty clear that at the very least, Yor thinks that she is doing this for the greater good. Like, she's getting paid. She's been told that the people that she's going after are evil or terrorists or, you know, trying to destroy her country or things like that. And as far as we've seen, at least some of these people are actually morally reprehensible people. And it keeps her from being unsympathetic.
There is not a scene that Yor is doing assassination work where she doesn't kill a room full of people.
I think my favorite bit with that is in the first scene where we, you know, see her post assassination work. She is, you know, at the sink washing off her hands afterwards, and she's complaining that the blood won't come out. And you're like, oh, is this some sort of moral thing about killing that she hasn't? No, she just needs to make sure that her hands are literally physically clean, because otherwise it would be like a giveaway on the nature of her side gig as an assassin. She is 110% behind this whole killing people thing. She's very into it.
Yeah,
actually.
that's the one thing I really like about Yor, that I think if they wanted to take the series in a different place, it would definitely make it darker. She does not have any qualms about assassination. She views it as a job she is doing.
And if anything, possibly the assassination job doesn't come with good benefits. City job, steady, good pension. Got to think about those things.
Hey, as long as there's 2 people left on the planet, someone's going to want someone dead.
The big conceit of, in the context of the story here, she has been invited to a dinner party by her mean coworkers who are totally just making fun of her, and they tell her to bring her boyfriend because she is now lying about having a boyfriend.
To them and to her sweet brother.
That is the big thing. She was originally planning to just skip the party, but she told her brother she has a boyfriend, and because he could not make it, he sent, or I think his friend Dominic is dating one of her coworkers.
Yeah,
that's really...
Yes.
The particularly mean one.
Yeah, which raises some red flags about Dominic, because she is so outspokenly like antagonistic. I'm just like, dude, how can you...
He does dump her after that party, though, to be fair.
Yeah, so I guess that was the most like overt instance of her being so nasty, because I'm just like, ew, you can do better, Dominic.
The big thing, though, Yor, in addition to our main character needing 48 hours to find a wife, she has 6 hours to find a boyfriend.
She just happens to walk into the same tailor shop where Lloyd Forger and his little girl Anya are getting some clothes.
Ooh, and I love the inner dialogue because immediately there is an attraction there. But then when she sees the daughter, she's like, crap. I don't want to.
They have such a funny back and forth because he's spy examining her, but he can't admit that when she looks over at him. Excuse me, were you staring at me? Because he was surprised she noticed he was watching her. But he then has to immediately go, oh no, I thought you were really beautiful. And she's like, oh.
She walked up behind him and he didn't even notice because she's got her super quiet assassin movement.
I'm saying it's internal screaming. It's like they're just too perfect.
They're made for each other. Not just in the sense of like, you know, assassin and spy, their like skill sets mesh well with each other, but like personality wise, they really do complement each other. Yor is more upbeat, optimistic, head in the clouds, but also, you know, maybe a little bit extremely airheaded, whereas our friend Lloyd, he's, you know, serious all the time. He can be very strict, but, you know, sometimes he loses sight of the human element.
Because he's had to, you know, constantly think multiple steps ahead.
And he's a bit of a defeatist. When a part of the plan goes wrong, he's like, well, plan's gone to hell. We're packing it up, lads. And Yor and Anya have to come in like, no, it's fine. We can fix this.
It's like there needs to be like an underworld like mixer. They would totally connect.
Yeah, they are going. This scene ends with them deciding to go to the party together.
I'm just saying, if there were like an underworld mixer, yes.
It's really cute because they both walk out of the shop together, and she just basically goes, "Hey, will you pretend to be my boyfriend?"
She notices that he's there with Anya, and she's like, oh no, he's already got a wife and he's married. And she thinks that Anya hears it and immediately runs over to Lloyd like, man, isn't it sad that Mama's gone?
Little Anya, perfect matchmaker.
There's another element that I like because it's a really funny line with Yor, because she doesn't just think, oh, he's married. She thinks, oh, he's married, so his wife I made a move on him.
Yeah, and then she immediately thinks,
oh,
who are we kidding? We know it'd be me kicking out his wife.
I don't want any unnecessary blood on my hands, so I guess I won't hit on a married man.
Yep.
And yeah, getting back to Anya playing matchmaker, like, I love that Anya ships these two so hard.
Oh, entirely for selfish reasons, too, because she's just like, I've got a cool daddy. I want a cool mommy, too.
And now, so Papa is a spy. This lady's an assassin. Oh, that's so cool. You have to be my mama now.
It's Anya who comes up with the idea of dead mom. This is the one big relationship lie among the main three. Mm-hmm. A series like this could very easily have funny gags of Yor and Lloyd, like, comically trying to seduce each other and then lying and saying they actually want a real relationship. And, you know, there's inevitable melodrama of the betrayal that it was, you know, fake. But, like, they go up to each other and say, hey, I need a fake partner. Can you do me a solid, you know, for this? And because the crux of why they got together in the first place, they told the truth, it means that there's not that barrier.
But like the big lie, the one big lie that I believe it is Anya comes up with is that she is Twilight's biological daughter, but her biological mom is dead, which is not the case. Her biological mom is probably dead, but certainly Twilight being her father.
Gosh, wouldn't that be a twist? If her parents were actually alive? That would be an interesting twist.
As far as we have read, that is not the case. But yes, Twilight and Yor agreed to go to the party together because it serves the ends that both of them need. And unfortunately, Twilight is called away on another mission the same night because there's a staffing shortage at Wise.
Yeah, that's the excuse that they use to get Twilight on a bunch of missions to set up family shenanigans.
More importantly, it's the excuse they give for why they just didn't assign a spy to be his wife, which is the way you would actually do it.
Yeah. I think someone even points that out at some point.
Specifically, what they said is there's a staffing shortage because the country they're in is doing like spy cleaning, and basically all of the young female operatives were killed. It's a very dark explanation for why they don't have a wife for him.
We have too big of a body count.
They are in a war-torn country is a thing you need to keep in mind while reading this.
Are you saying that they killed all of their young female operatives for a reason?
The countries that they were infiltrating had caught them as spies and then executed them.
Okay, because I'm thinking like Wise was like targeting their young operatives for some reason. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
This wasn't Weiss doing house cleaning. And like, we've got too many young women working for us.
What's wrong with them?
We got too many young, hot female operatives. This needs
That's what I'm thinking. That's the way he phrased it.
We'll
And I
never
was
be
like,
allowed in Shonen Jump with this. Get rid of them.
No, we might have misphrased. No, the point is that Asteria, the country that they're in.
because they were all single. You can't be single. They're all witches.
But anyway, Twilight is overworked, and so he and his spy buddy Frankie, who is a mood.
Good old Scruffy.
That is Sam's flavor.
Frankie is a necessary character because the thing is, do we ever get established he works for Wise? I don't think he does.
I don't think he does. Yeah, he's freelance. He's just associated with the agency and happens to be in the geographic location to support.
He is a
Twilight.
contact of Twilight who pays him directly.
Yeah.
But he was also involved with the agency.
He's involved in the espionage world. I don't think he's directly a part of Wise.
They're not ultra clear on it, but like, it's a spy game.
They also kind of don't need to be.
That's also true, because this is a character that has played almost comedy, and he's really funny, so I approve of this.
Another really funny part is what initially we hear about is Frankie was under task by Twilight, had to break into City Hall and stole the records of all unmarried women in the city.
That's the first scene that we see Yor in, because her coworkers are talking about how some creep.
This thing, that's like top tier creep.
And they look over at Yor, and it's like, oh, I bet they got your
your file.
Yeah. While Lloyd is off breaking up a smuggling ring, poor Yor. She's left all alone at this party, thinking that she got stood up. She's getting horribly hazed by these mean people.
Remember, like she thinks she got stood up before she actually entered the party. So at any point, she could have just not gone to the party and just be like, I guess I got stood up.
Not going to the party was never an option because her brother would find out.
Fortunately, our dashing hero, Lloyd, does actually manage the party.
Covered in blood.
With a concussion.
With a concussion. Wait, Mr. Forger, why are you so hurt? What happened to you? I'm a psychiatrist, and one of my patients got violent. It happens sometimes.
Also, this is I'm her husband.
Oops.
Very smoothly. Very smooth.
No, you're supposed to pretend to be my boyfriend. Ah, crap, I got hit on the head too hard. I'm slipping.
I don't know. I feel like there may be some, that may have been...
Freudian.
Subconscious desire slipping out.
It's integral to his mission, his mission that he needs a wife, not a girlfriend. So that's not even on his mind, really. Wife. So like immediately he's like, oh, I am the husband.
You know, once he gets cleaned up from his battle wounds, he falls rather neatly into the role. They subvert some more catty shenanigans.
Shenanigans? She freaking throws a hot dish at her.
Yeah.
A dish full of hot macaroni and cheese.
Yeah, what a waste of macaroni and cheese. Though Yor is actually able to catch it by
with a
axe kicking it into the air and then catching it subsequently.
Which is one of my favorite interactions between Yor and Twilight. He does not react at all to her doing this. He goes, oh, honey, that is a little uncouth to touch food with your foot. And she's like, oh, you're right. And meanwhile, my favorite bit is just the tiniest bit of sauce comes out of this, lands on her coworker's head and seriously burns her to let you know this was a potentially deadly prank.
Yep.
Yeah, right on her nose.
As she should.
Very well, she should. Yep.
Yeah, she deserved that.
But, you know, they have a bit of the mac and cheese. It's delicious. And they're like, all right, well, this has been a great party. We really must get on our way. You've been here for like 5 minutes. Oh, yeah, no, your hospitality is fantastic. See ya.
I proved my cover. We can leave now.
Yeah, basically.
Yep. I have a concussion.
Unfortunately, those patients seem to have found him.
I hate it when patients do that.
I love how Yor is a combination of airheaded, she doesn't know when she's being lied to, and so ready to believe whatever she's told that she's just like, cool.
Wow, I didn't realize that psychiatric patients could get so violent, have access to weapons like automatic guns and grenades.
Is it okay that you're punching your patients like that? Yes, and it's experimental concussive therapy.
And then the narration box, one of my favorite characters in this story, because the narration boxes are a character.
This is a lie. This is not a thing.
This is untrue.
But there are more shenanigans of them escaping the smuggling ring. And my favorite bit happens because Yor says, well, you already said you're my husband, so will you marry me? And he's like, yeah, all right, no, this works perfectly for what I need. All right, I stole a ring from the smugglers and I lost the ring. Well, I have this grenade. Ping! And he uses a grenade pole ring as the wedding band that he puts on her finger.
Which is so fitting for them.
And he kills the people attacking them in an explosion.
Well, we never had to say their witnesses had to survive the entire ceremony.
They were there to witness.
This manga, you want to see these two just actually be, you know, a real married couple. Because, like, the whole, like, her assassin thing and his spy thing, if they were on the same side of any given political divide, they're actually a really great power couple, and they really genuinely like each other.
I mean, unfortunately, like any good spy fiction, the love interests are on opposite sides of the...
Of course.
Yep.
Just the way that the story is set up, there's inevitably going to be a plot to either kill Twilight or Anya or both. That's definitely going to be, at some point in the future, one of the big dramatic moments. I'm eagerly anticipating it and want to see them get through it because I adore this family.
We get my favorite scene, which is when Yor moves in and we have Twilight informed, don't worry, we will have separate bedrooms along with Operation Honeymoon in case we accidentally need to entertain a guest. I will not go further into that at this moment.
We do ultimately see Operation Honeymoon, though, and it is delightful.
They're supposed to be a married couple, but they are strangers. They don't know each other. They're not going to get physical, no matter how many times Anya says, Mama and Papa going to kiss now?
Which is hilarious because she only ever does that when they have like a romantic tension and they look at each other because she's reading their minds and she's like,
They want to kiss each other. They're thinking about it.
yeah, they thinking about kissing.
I'm with you, Anya.
In this situation, I'm thinking about if, I know not everyone is like this, but like if in the instance of arranged marriages, like they could still like date, obviously, and still get to know each other, even if they were, you know, legally a married couple.
Well, the problem is they both keep telling each other that their relationship is only for pretenses. And despite the fact their walls are slowly breaking down over the course of what we read.
Because it's obviously putting those walls up in order to protect each other's feelings and to protect pretenses. But I mean, it's very obvious that, again, internal screaming, if they would just tell each other that, hey, I'm involved in very precarious work. Oh, me too. Wow, we have so much in common, so it's no awkwardness.
But the big thing is no one wants to be the first one to say this fake relationship is now real for me.
And yeah, that's the thing. It's not just that they're lying to each other about how real they want the relationship to be. Way more so Twilight, but both of them are lying to themselves about how
you're with someone who would actually understand what you go through on a daily basis. People watching your back, people trying to subvert or kill you, like so overtly. It's just like, wow, someone who actually gets it. Yeah.
We basically get told that by the narrator at the end when the family finally comes together, is you have this three strangers who, out of convenience, need a family as a disguise, have accidentally formed a legitimate family.
Uh-huh. And it is the most delightful thing. I love it. They've got this family unit together. They need to make sure that they have had bonding experiences and acclimated Anya to the way the elite live. So they go and do some bonding things, and they come together over violence and vigilantism.
They try to do upper crust things.
Yeah, like going to the opera.
Twilight's able to like immerse himself in it because that's literally his day and night job, but Yor is completely lost and Anya's asleep, so
They go to a fancy restaurant, and Anya isn't being fancy and polite. Yor is busy fingering the knives and the cutlery.
She has this, like, schoolgirl crush blush while she's, like, trailing her finger along the blade of the steak knife.
Yeah, if you ever didn't think...
My kind of woman.
Yeah, Yor really likes her job.
Sam, you need to stay away from those types of women. I'm just saying. Sam, no more excuses. You're not allowed to complain about women if this is the women you pursue.
They accidentally, while viewing the town from up high, witness a purse mugger with Twilight's eagle sight.
Mm-hmm. They're having this, like, genuine family moment. They have this, like, beautiful, serene view of the city that Yor uses to calm herself down when, one of her jobs is overwhelming.
Down at the bottom of the big hill that they're on, they see some guy walk up to an old lady and mug her and take her purse and dash away. And Twilight's like, well, that's a shame. She probably should have kept tighter hold on that purse. And Yor immediately, get back here, you piece of shit! Like, leaps off of the balcony and, like,
uses her ninja powers.
The fact that Twilight, like, has very, like, cool and, like, very little reaction to this is just like, for all you know, this is just a classic office worker. Who is this woman who's jumping off balconies and high kicking and beating the crap out of people?
Yeah, It's funny how he never questions where you got all of her, like, combat skills.
Yeah, Twilight is suspicious of everyone around him, and Yor also does get a bunch of monologues of maybe I should be paranoid about her as well. But her capabilities are never called into question, as almost as if Twilight just expects, yeah, obviously I can do it. There must be other people who can.
I mean, hyper competent martial arts is his day-to-day, so somebody else having that doesn't seem that weird to him. But unfortunately, Yor does not get down there quickly enough in order to catch the criminal, who disappears into the crowd. Lloyd and Anya, they go running the long way down the hill because they're not madmen leaping off of the side of it. And Anya, using her amazing mind-reading powers, locates the criminal in the crowd and subtly...
How dare he?
Or she subtly directs Lloyd to look in the direction of the criminal, and with his master spy powers, he sees right through the thief's feeble disguise.
We're saying that Lloyd isn't the type of psycho to jump on a high place. He kind of is, because that's how he catches the criminal.
He leaps off a bridge and body slams this man, drives his face into the pavement, and says, "Dinner served, you piece of shit."
And then he casually gets up, looks at the crowd that's all staring at him, and says, "He stole a purse. Have a nice day," and just walks away.
Yor comes up with the old lady, retrieves the purse. It had money for her grandson. It's a very heartfelt moment. And the nice old lady looks at them and says, you have such a wonderful family here. It's good to see the young people having such good families.
Twilight actually has the glimmer of, like, maybe taking credit for something is not bad all the time.
There's a bit about how spies are heroes who never get their deeds reported on or sung about. But he was able to get the purse back, the stolen purse back, and the old lady, thanks him generously for his good deed of probably breaking that guy's face, but she didn't see that part. And it's not something he's used to. He's not used to being thanked.
It's interview day at Eden Academy.
I love this entire sequence so much.
The Spy X Family went off the rails a lot of times up to this point. Like, plot section is always all off the rails from the start.
Eden Academy is that vibe you get in anime and manga occasionally, where you have to explore what the hyper rich are like, and manga loves mocking the hyper rich.
Yep, a place that's so ridiculously snooty and stuck up that they are judging you on the most minute details before you even walk in the door. They've got people watching you from the very start, hidden in windows, which of course Master Spy Twilight notices. It's a good thing we took all these preparations. And He's like, all right, ladies, just follow my lead. I'm used to blending in with crowds like this.
Unfortunately, blending in isn't going to be good enough because we find out really quickly the headmaster explicitly does not want Anya in the school because her score was incredibly unelegant.
Not the headmaster, a housemaster. They have.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Housemaster Henderson.
He's elegance guy to me.
He is elegance man.
They don't mention his name very often.
And he's like, 31 is technically a passing score, but it's so inelegant. You're on thin ice, Forger. You will be rejected immediately at the slightest misstep. And, they walk past the statue of the school's founder, and all of the Forger family immediately salute the statue. And he goes, such elegance! And Lloyd is like, yes, this is the thing you must do to garner goodwill with the people that you're trying to infiltrate. And your thanks. I'm not entirely sure why we're doing this, but if I follow Lloyd's lead, it can't go wrong. And Anya looks at the statue and goes, bald guy.
She just read Twilight's mind to
know what to do.
Which honestly, that's just Anya being perfect like she always is.
Mm-hmm. And Henderson is sufficiently enthralled by their elegance in this maneuver. But the next challenge arises because, oh no, tragedy. A student has fallen in the gutter. Won't someone save him?
But there's such dirty water that he's splashing everywhere.
Like Twilight comes over as Anya leads him over, and he one hand grabs this kid out of the muck, which in the kid's internal monologue, we do get confirmed that he's there as part of a test from the academy. He's getting extra credit for trapping himself. But
is this credit really worth it?
Unfortunately, despite how elegantly he saved the child, he did allow a speck of mud to splatter his jacket, which is enough to be disqualified. How unelegant. Only a peasant would allow themselves to be dirtied in such a matter.
We anticipated this might happen, so we had a change of clothes. They anticipated this? How elegant!
In fact, these outfits are even more elegant. I was just looking for an excuse to exchange, young sir. Thank you. He even spared the young boy's feelings. How elegant.
Lloyd Forger, who are you?
I loved this entire arc.
It's not even gone buck wild yet, because we're about to get to the real crazy.
A stampede breaks out
from the school's zoo.
Yeah.
Or was it a farm? I thought it was the school's farm, which is equally insane.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And Twilight is thinking, how far will you go, Eden Academy? And Henderson's like, wait, how far are we going? Who approved this? Nobody did. This is This is an actual disaster, sir. This is an emergency. Oh no.
There are VIPs out there. Like, we were going to disqualify them from the school, but if they get hurt.
Mm-hmm. And one particularly angry cow is leading this charge, which Anya notes directly with her mind reading powers. It's like, that's the one that's causing all of this. And Yor immediately locks eyes on target as Lloyd is running interference, saving VIPs from the charging animals. She goes in. Whoa, boom! Pressure point attack.
Which calms the rampaging herd.
Her explanation to Twilight about this is hilarious, too, because it's just like, hey, how'd you know how to take down a cow like that? She's like, well, I did a lot of yoga and learned about pressure points. I just assumed cows had similar ones. I actually learned about pressure points as an assassin.
and he just buys that. And to say that it calmed the herd is a way to put it. More like terrified the piss out of every last one of them. The cow that was leading the rampage gets up after being paralyzed and is like, okay, you win. I'm going home now. Bye.
More importantly, Anya calms it down.
Yeah, Anya goes over to it. Oh, don't be scared, Mr. Cow, and like pats it on the head.
Mm-hmm.
Also, could be an empath. We don't know how psychics work in this setting. But the cow does get up, turn away, and walk back home, which gets the rest of the animals to follow it. Unfortunately, their clothes were a little scruffy from taking care of all these animals. But don't worry, they were prepared for this and brought a third set of clothes. how elegant. Their third set of clothes is actually they're wearing like Victorian evening wear.
Yeah, Lloyd's got a top hat.
It's amazing.
And this is all just the lead up to the interview, which is with 3 of the housemasters, including our main elegance man, Henderson, who is already very smitten with the Forgers, despite the low inelegant score. But we have... I can't remember
Glasses
one of
Man.
them. Yeah, we have Glasses Man. He's very unassuming.
He sure existed in this scene.
His whole thing was he asks the first question, and that was actually a form of trick. But that immediately gets sideswiped because Twilight was prepared for that question. So
And answered it perfectly, yes. But then we get the next guy, the fat...
This guy.
yeah, he is a nepotism hire. His father was the former headmaster of the academy, and that puts him into his position despite the fact he doesn't really deserve it.
He's also incredibly misogynistic and likes unsettling the families by asking very rude questions of the wives.
Yeah, in particular, he had recently been divorced, so seeing happy families
Lost
made
full custody of his children.
Yeah.
he probably did not deserve custody of his children.
Yeah, but that's really telling because he thinks he's like all that. He basically is trying to exert power where he feels he has it, even though he doesn't deserve that power because his personal life, he has 0.
Basically, what he's saying is his family fell apart, so no one's family is actually together.
Projecting.
Essentially, he's just answering questions, and Twilight's entire plan with him is like, he's not going to like me no matter what I say. Give him the bare minimum he needs. Don't give him anything he can fight from, and I'll try and win points with the 2 others. He is a lost cause. Which, fair.
Yep. Swan, the fat is not to be underestimated in the depths of degeneracy that he will fall to.
This guy, wow.
Question he asked legitimately made me mad. That is not a thing you ask ever.
I mean, which one? There were a couple that I wanted to reach through the screen and throttle them.
Specifically the last one, because it definitely builds to that.
Yes, the last one was the worst, but...
So he asks some various misogynistic questions at Yor, and it's like, oh, actually, Lloyd does most of the cooking around the house, because... And it's like, oh, wow, you really failed as a wife if your husband has to do the cooking and blah, 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 this BS. And then the cover story of Anya being Lloyd's child by his deceased first wife comes out. And, like, we know that this isn't truly the case, but we still know that, you know, Anya's been through a lot. She's been through multiple families in a very short amount of time.
And they actually ask Anya a few questions, and for all the mind-reading shenanigans that Anya has gotten up to by this point, when she's asked how she rates her parents, she says they get a perfect 100 score.
Both of them.
And she says it with such a glow on her face, you just know she's not answering the question by reading minds, knowing what... I love them!
It's so precious. But Swan, unable to... abide this wholesomeness, turns to Anya and says, all right, so which one do you love more, your real mommy or this one?
And like he even phrases it that way.
Yeah, in the most scumbag way possible. And everybody in the room looks at him like,
how dare you even say, like Henderson and the teacher who isn't important, they're both furious with him.
And I love it because what we get is Yor going like, I don't know how to answer that question. We get Anya going, what? And none of that matters because Twilight is already halfway over the table to punch this guy in the face.
Anya broke down into tears.
And that's sort of part of the thing because we don't know what happened to Anya's actual birth mother. For all we know, Anya accidentally killed her birth parents with her psychic powers or something, and that's why.
It's also a question that doesn't lead anywhere. If the story is that your birth mother died, it doesn't matter whether you like your current mother better or not. She's still your mom. You can't like it's just an irrelevant question.
That's the point. He's specifically asking it to cause pain. And
it very obviously hurts Anya, which
Twilight then lunges over the table and has to mentally scream at himself, "Stop! This is terrible for the mission," which catches him just in time to punch down, break the table in half. And he's just like, "Sorry, there was a mosquito."
He didn't get the actual mosquito that was sitting right across from him.
Amen. The art in this manga is really good.
Oh, yeah.
The mangaka is fantastic at making very powerful facial expressions. The panel of Twilight lunging across with violence writ across his face. Like, I was furious. I was with him. I was ready for him to beat this man straight into the afterlife. I was scared looking at those eyes.
Twilight doesn't have like a murderous intent face. Yor totally does, because that's her job. She kills people. Twilight was gonna one-shot kill this guy. Like, he's even thinking in his head, like, you know, like, be concerned about the mission. But he gets up and he says, if this is the way the teaching staff present themselves at Eden, then maybe I should find another school. Like, if he wants to succeed at his mission, he would not care enough about Anya and Yor, but, like, he is.
I mean, that is a James Bond exit line. Like, I guess I've chosen the wrong school just hits so deeply. And, like, I think part of that is just he's a spy. He knows what has happened has happened. He needs to recover from that. Mm-hmm. So he says that purposefully because he's like, I need to get the other two on my side.
We're already kind of on his side because they were equally repulsed. Like, what? Not even who. What says that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, the best thing about that line is it's just like, I still really respect this school, but if this is the kind of teacher you have here, I guess I made a mistake. And they're like, oh no, isn't our school better than this one guy? Like,
yeah, it's done in such a way that, and like, you know, that's sort of the thing about Twilight at this point, because like, he doesn't want to have a foot in the door of these two people being his family. And it's like, you know, there's that roundabout way back to the mission, but, you know, you don't say that to someone.
And you know, the forgers leave after the interview and they're like, that kind of went down the drain, didn't it? Oh, well, chin up, we'll see what happens. And we cut back to inside the interview room, and Glasses Man is telling off Swan, like, come on, dude, that was inappropriate, that was uncalled for. Henderson is just laying into him, and he's like, and, you know, this guy's trying to flex his nepotism. Like, my father might not be the headmaster here anymore, but he's got some real sway. You best not step to me, Henderson. And Henderson's like, I'll do more than step to you. And boom, right hook straight in the smug face. Lays him right on the ground.
That is a full page panel, too, of him getting punched in the face and then unconscious falling away. He got one hit KO'd.
And Henderson turns around, dusts off his knuckles. Handled elegantly.
Oh boy, what a beautiful full page of this guy getting punched. Oh man. Henderson is just such a consistently great character, because like, he stays in character as someone who is like, he is a staff member at Eden. Eden comes first, but like, he's also like aware enough to like understand what's going on with the forgers. And
that's what I love about him. At the very least, he very much admires Lloyd and wants to like help out the forgers as much as he can off of that respect.
He sees their potential,
but he sees their potential. He also can't allow it to compromise his position at the school, because he very much cares for the school as well. And so we see him treading that line and making sacrifices like that all the time. And I love it. It's a very compelling. He's a very compellingly written character for being funny, haha, elegance man.
He is a complete joke character, and yet it's just another character that I can't help but be deeply emotionally invested in spite of how ridiculous he is.
The forgers go home. They are very distraught about what happened, because it's like, well, I guess the mission's down the tubes. There might be a little bit of hope. We'll have to wait and see for when the announcement comes. The announcement comes. They are. Anya is not on the acceptance
list.
Board. On the list, and they're walking away dejectedly. But Henderson comes up to them and is like, actually, we've got a waiting list of people that were just under the acceptance threshold, or we always have people that drop out every year, and I was able to get Anya put at the very top of the short list. So good luck.
We get such a funny little vignette with Yor upon finding this out.
Because Yor's response to hearing if one person drops out, then Anya can get into the school, she immediately has a full-on vision of her going up to an official who is the parent of one of the accepted students and murdering him.
I love in the daydream, the guy she's murdering, his entire dialogue is just, no, if I'm killed, my son will never my son will never be mentally ready to go to Eden Academy.
And she says, that's exactly why this has to happen. For my Anya, you need to die. And then she's shaking her head and blushing no, don't think that. Don't think about killing innocent people. You can't do that.
Yor does come away from that meeting with some insecurities. She does feel like she's not being a good enough mother to Anya.
She does feel like she's being an inadequate wife, despite the
fact that she's an amazing mother, so good with Anya.
And, Twilight running interference. Actually, she's fantastic around the house, but, she still feels like she needs to step up in that regard.
There's this big lie hanging over each of the three of them, and yet they're one of the most functional families I've seen in a manga ever.
Because they're all committed to making the lie work, is the thing.
Well, it's that too, but they're also they're all good for each other. Yor is trying to deal with her insecurities, and they're preparing to send Anya to her classes because there is enough people declining going to Eden.
Somebody does drop out, and so she gets.
Yor tries to be the kind of mother she's expected to be, and she doesn't even really fail that badly at it. It's the kind of thing that it's obvious that if she worked at it, she'd be better. Shenanigans about Anya almost getting kidnapped, and Mama Bear comes out. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Do not touch my daughter.
Yeah, Yor and Anya go to the supermarket to get some groceries, and Anya wanders away, gets caught by some thugs who are
she is showing off her Eden Academy uniform to literally everyone she walks into.
Because but she's so cute in it, though.
She's so cute in it, though, and she's so proud.
Did you know children from Eden Academy are often kidnapped and held for ransom if they're commuters? What? Mm-hmm. Everyone's thinking this as Anya just keeps going, what?
I love because there are a bunch of cases where something air quotes serious will happen, and people are thinking about death and destruction and bad things in their head, and then wide-eyed tiny pupil stare of Anya.
I feel like, dear audience, we're doing you a disservice because nothing we do overviewing this is going to be able to completely convey Anya as a character because she is 100% side panels reacting to things. Is 100% of her jokes, which we cannot convey to you with proper respect.
Lloyd or Yor will think something and she will mind read it and she'll be like, ah!
Oh, cool. So scary.
So cool. Or
Mama
so
and Papa are gonna kiss.
Yep. Thugs attempt to kidnap Anya, and within bare seconds, Yor tears out of the supermarket, plants one of them in the pavement, and says, I am her mother. You will give her back now or you will all die.
Which is hilarious because this group of thugs sees one of their people completely knocked out to the pavement. It's like, hey, now you got to pay his medical bills in addition to the ransom. You're still going to win this fight?
What ultimately comes of this is, Yor is thinking, oh, that was very unladylike. I'm a terrible mother. But Anya thinks it's awesome because, it's awesome. And the really wonderful thing about this is Anya wants to learn how to defend herself, and the lessons that Yor gives her, she's a little kid. It doesn't ultimately go exactly as planned, but Yor, drills into her with the lessons on, how to throw a punch and things like that,
how to be menacing.
And more importantly, not just always be menacing, how to put on a ladylike facade.
Mm-hmm. Yor teaches Anya how to defend herself
There's just a really cute panel of Twilight walking home from his mission, which was inconsequential, to the two of them doing some mother-daughter punching exercises. And he's like, what are you doing? Getting ready for school.
He's like, okay.
But anyway, the mission of Operation Strix finally comes into its beginning, which we're finally at after all of this talking.
Phase 2 at last.
Anya's first day of school, which...
It's orientation day.
Not really at this point, but we do get established there's actually a little addendum to what the actual requirements of Operation Strix are. It's not enough to get the child into school because... the
person that they're after
Desmond, I forget him, but he basically only interacts with the upper crust of the upper crust. So Anya will need to become Imperial Scholar?
Imperial Scholar.
An Imperial Scholar.
By earning 8 stellar stars and not earning
8 to nitrous bolts.
Because if you earn 8 of those, you get expelled. What?
Yep. Yeah, we need progress bars.
Fair.
And they have progress bars because the narration box.
Every mission ends with their current progress to either achieving a stellar star or getting expelled. And what Anya's relationship with the important part is she has been placed in the same class as not the older child of Mr. Desmond, but his youngest son, age 6, Damien Desmond, who looks like you think every person named Damien looks like.
She's actually in a class with a whole bunch of VIP's kids, which Lloyd is like, oh my god, it's a treasure trove of intel. Yes, Anya, make plenty of friends. And then all the snobby rich kids are being snobby rich kids at her, and so she turns away like, you guys are rude. And he's like, no, stop.
But unfortunately for Anya, being in a classroom setting, she is always reading the minds of these stuck-up rich kids, and they do nothing but judge her. And she is constantly anxious because it's not like she's thinking they're judging her. She actively hears their constant critiques of her.
Yep.
Anya, she deserves so much. She's so much better than basically all of these people.
And Damien is the worst of it because he is the penultimate spoiled brat kid. And, he spends most of this chapter and the orientation time at school just picking on Anya, calling her trash, telling her to get out of his face, blah, blah, blah. Until at one point, Anya looks over her shoulder, checks where the teacher is, sees he's around the corner, and boom! Right hook in the face.
To be fair, she managed to hold out for a very long time.
She had been using the disarming smile, which, as Matt alluded to earlier, we cannot properly describe, but it is accompanied with the onomatopoeia of "yeah."
You don't understand. A lady always just smiles off.
It's insulting, but you can't say anything like, "Oh no, she smiled at me."
Every time I saw her, I couldn't not think of that meme of the frog who's just receding into his own neck that just goes, hey.
Yes.
Yes.
But when their homeroom teacher, who is Mr. Henderson, who did get demoted after punching Swan out, he comes over and he's like, what happened here? And it's like, she punched me for no reason whatsoever. And Anya
proceeds to present reason. Oh.
Well, Anya, taking after her adopted father and being a smooth liar, is like, actually, he
walked into my fist.
No, he bumped in. Well, she does start with that.
She starts with that and is immediately called out on the obvious line.
And she's like, actually, this other girl, Becky, he stepped on her shoe and I reacted to defend her. And Becky's like, oh my gosh, you're so cool. You came to save me. We're now best friends.
You took on so much abuse, but only came to the aid of a friend? How elegant.
Yeah, Henderson recognizes that Damien was the one at fault, but he also can't overlook the fact that you just punched another student. That is very obviously against the rules. She gets one of the bolts for this.
Specifically, she gets 3 tinnitus bolts. But Henderson is able to negotiate that down to 1 because he is not one to speak on punching someone who has behaved inelegantly.
Very true. Very true.
Gosh, is he the grandpa of the family?
He kind of is. So thus concludes day 1 at Eden Academy. We have an interlude involving some penguins.
200 penguins.
It is a very funny story that is explicitly non-canon. It is explained in the front part that is a one-shot that was written for a summer magazine because it does take place in the summer.
So anyway, we get back to the actual main plot line here, where they're trying to make Anya an honor student. It's not going super well because she's an airhead.
She doesn't want to apply herself because she thinks she can just if anyone get the right answers. And I'm sitting here like, no, Anya, you would be completely invincible if you cultivated your mind. This is basically a through line for the rest of what we read. There is such an absolutely adorable moment where it's honestly, it's a domestic moment where Lloyd is pushing Anya. I don't know if it's come up before this point, but it's emphasized here that Yor actually did a lot of raising of her little brother because their parents died when they were young. So she actually does kind of understand a little bit more, child rearing than, despite, being unmarried and this being her first air quotes relationship. Yor and Lloyd have this like great domestic moment. And in spite of Anya, being a little bit of the, acting her age, bratty kid, when Lloyd, after he sees that, yeah, I've been too harsh, I need to, lighten up on her, give her some more positive reinforcement, he goes into her room where she had run to get her for her cartoon, and she had fallen asleep at the desk in her room with text.
With textbooks open, she was doing the studying on her own in order to help Daddy's mission.
She genuinely wants to help. She just doesn't want to do any hard work.
Yeah. But she's 6. She's probably not actually 6, but she is a child. And her greatest experience with spies is the Bondman cartoon, where, if it's like any cartoons in our world, it is spy plot lines wrapped up in 11 minutes or less.
It's so funny too when Twilight realizes that if he tricks Anya into doing math problems by talking about Bondman, she'll actually learn things. So he immediately goes, well, better learn everything I can about this cartoon. So whenever we see him moving forward, he's always reading a Bondman comic.
He teaches her fractions by having her count the bullets in Bondman's gun when he's shooting.
Yeah, Twilight also does comment a few times like, is this for kids?
You can see over the course of especially the last couple of chapters that we read, Anya is very obviously maturing, because she can read the minds of adults as a greater perspective on the world than a kid her age normally would. Like she's, really growing up to be a elegant young lady, and again, what a wonderful family this is because her doing such a good job of raising their kid.
And I mean, one of those like big things that does show she's maturing is Twilight informs her that she should probably apologize to Damien for punching him. Because realistically, you probably should. Punching him was a bit of an overreaction for the situation you were in. And like eventually, it's an entire thing of Twilight trying to subtly get her to apologize and her friend Becky going like, don't apologize to those dumb boys.
Subtle is a word for it. He at one point clambers onto the roof of the school, etches "you should apologize" onto a mirror, and reflects it down in a beam of light at her feet. And she's like, is this a message from God?
You should apologize.
Oh, he edits the reading assignment so that her book instead, because the book was clearly about standing up for what you believe in, except he cut out her book to read. Sometimes giving up your principles to just apologize is the superior method.
And he eventually realizes, oh, it's Becky that's getting in the way. So he contrives a reason for Becky to not be around Anya, giving her the opportunity to go apologize.
Oh, I'm just going to call her to the office and no one's there to receive her.
An adorable panel of her sitting in an empty room going like, there's no one here.
No, it's even better than that because
it was the gymnasium, wasn't it?
No, the intercom goes off and it's like, Becky Blackbell, report to the auditorium, please. And she's like, but I'm in the middle of lunch. And the intercom responds, I said now.
But anyway, the main point of this is Anya eventually does get to talk to Damien and gives a heartfelt, tearful apology because honestly, she doesn't want to be enemies with him because it's important to the mission, and also she just wants to make friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another case. That's another case where it's really beautiful because, like, you really do, like, you know, the Damien's minions are like, oh, look at the tears in her eyes. Look, it really is. Like,
well, it's mostly she's so frustrated about being told to apologize.
That's where the tears come from, but
yeah, and like it's hilarious because his minions are just like, she's crying. It's such a heartfelt apology, and you see Damien just go from like this sneering bully to doki doki. Oh no!
At which point he punches.
He had been having these feelings the whole time, like the entire chapter.
She immediately did not cow to, you know, his taunts and just smiled at him. He's like, who is she?
It's 100% this girl stood up to me. I'm suddenly interested.
She punched him in the face and it turned him into a tsundere.
He didn't realize he was having these feelings until she apologized. He felt his heart go doki doki and he had to run away.
Yep. But before he ran away, he also had to punch away the doki doki sound effect bubble.
This manga's really good.
It is.
I hope we've adequately conveyed how amazing this story is.
But if you took nothing else from this, Anya's adorable. You need to read this.
We're giving you a plot overview here, but honestly, a lot of these stories are like vignettes that are comedies that really just need to be enjoyed.
Yeah. Because there's a whole bunch of various vignettes of how Anya is, you know, getting along in school or not getting along in school. There's a fun dodgeball tournament where she uses her mind reading powers to attain ultra instinct and then completely fails at attacking.
Yeah, I want to know how old or how long Bill has been 6 years old.
Yeah, it's a interclass dodgeball tournament, and the main thing is the other team's class has the son of a military general who looks like a muscled out adult man but is claimed to be 6.
Yeah, Bill the Bazooka.
Like, I don't know if the joke is supposed to be he's the son of a military general, so obviously he's roided out, or is the joke supposed to be this military general, in order to get close to Desmond, also put an operative into the class?
We may never know. It of course has a bunch of fun moments with Anya, but the next major thing that happens.
We've been having a lot of Anya lately. We need to come back to our 2 adult characters, Yor and Twilight, because someone finds out they're married.
I guess Dominic finally ran into his work buddy, Yuri. And was like, hey, yeah, did you know your sister's married? What?
Did you know your sister has been married for a year?
Yeah,
and they backdated the marriage certificate by a year.
Which, in all fairness, does pay off, because when they go to the interview at Eden Academy, one of the people says maybe it was just a marriage for convenience. Like, someone comments, did they just get married like 2 days ago? As if that's a thing you would do. We find out what Yuri does for a living. He is not just your average civil servant. He is a special forces interrogator.
Yep, he is an SSS officer. He's the secret police.
Yeah, I love how subtle it is.
He is straight up out of the Reich, yeah.
Damien is introduced as being so unbelievably unlike that you're like, oh, this guy is, you know, or like this kid is, he's too young to be as vile as the fat teacher who got punched, but like he's obviously in the same tier of over the course of the scenes that we get with him, like he remains in character such that he doesn't do anything, you know, like during that dodgeball tournament, like he protects Anya, like he dives in front of a ball for her, but he's trying to catch it, which is so in character. Like he's not gonna just like, suddenly be a love-struck idiot. No, he's still trying to be the star of his, the main character of his own story.
He's willing to defend her and also look good rather than let her fall so he can succeed.
Yeah.
Yep. So there's a spark of nobility in him, and they do this with all the characters. Like Yuri's a part of the secret police. He's also an adorable cinnamon roll who really loves his sister.
Probably a little too much.
Loves his sister a little too much, yeah.
I will say one of the first reactions that I had when we were introduced to Yuri proper was I was a little bit disappointed that he was as extremely quirky as he was, because I kind of felt like it would have worked if like he was the foot in the door of normal that Yor needed to keep herself grounded. But like Yuri is a treasure. Like,
oh my god, I love this. Like his introduction, he basically essentially says to the criminal he's interrogating, he goes, "Hey, my sister has been married for a year and I'm just meeting her husband tonight. I really want to get home early today. Are you going to make this difficult for me?" And he's just all smiles and everything. And the second the guy says, "I'm not telling you anything," is like, "You made this difficult for me." And we cut away because apparently he tortures everything he needs out of this guy.
Well, that's the irony of it, because neither one knows the other one is involved in such a career. Like, they're both trying to hide it from the other.
It really comes out when Yuri demands to meet them and is invited over for dinner. And we get essentially a Three's Company plot. Because we unveil Operation Honeymoon.
Oh my god, I love the pillows that say yes on them. Like
too much for me. It just did not compute.
Essentially, they convert their 3-bedroom apartment where Yor and Twilight have separate bedrooms into a single bedroom apartment. They have a single bedroom they share that is covered in a heart bedspread, photoshopped pictures of them together, just as lovey-dovey.
I mean, it's like a honeymoon. Like there's Anya standing next to them. Mama and Papa gonna kiss?
Because there was a beat and they were thinking about it.
Like she obviously has genuine feelings. Like Twilight's obviously gonna be the holdout in this because. And, this goes back to the idea of keeping all parties sympathetic. Twilight is almost surely going to be the character that keeps this family from just being a family the longest, because he's constantly going back to the mission. And that's why it's important that his side is framed as the good guy side, because It keeps you liking him in spite of, him being the big wall. But that doesn't mean it isn't frustrating to get all around him. And it's just accept that you like him. You obviously do.
Oh, yeah. But anyway.
It's very effective.
We get just a lovely scene that I'm not sure we can do much justice for describing.
Yeah.
Yuri eventually comes over to talk with them.
Anya has fallen asleep at this point because it's way past her bedtime.
Because unfortunately, Yuri did have to work late. And as apology, he bought a bouquet of not just flowers, he bought a bouquet of orchids, which...
yeah, that's
extra.
Those aren't cheap.
A huge bouquet as well, and comes stumbling through the door. Not stumbling, but late at night, and is greeted lovey-dovey by his sister and her husband, and he is not happy about that.
Mm-hmm. Who is this random slime that has come into my sister's life? Is he worthy of her?
He can't be.
And Yuri's not very good at his job, apparently, because he immediately starts interrogating Twilight.
Mm-hmm.
To an extent that Twilight just immediately thinks, "Oh no, he's SSS."
Oh no, it's even better than that, because Twilight realizes that he's being interrogated, and so he very expertly guides the conversation into foreign travel, because he has memorized the SSS's playbook on the scripted response on foreign travel.
Restaurants around the embassies.
Mm-hmm. And Yuri gives all of the coded responses, like, perfectly. And Twilight's like, now I know that you're not the best at this job, Yuri, because if you had actually been up to date on your answers, then you would have known that the manager of the small restaurant that you just praised retired 4 months ago. Now we have another layer of this deception that we have to work around, and it adds even more to the tension as Yuri is just getting increasingly belligerently drunk.
Yeah, we didn't mention this earlier, but there was a celebration for Anya getting into school where we find out that Yor is a lightweight, but also drinks. Well, I'm not sure she's a lightweight.
Yeah, Briars are bad drunks is what it comes down to.
They drink a lot, because Yor does finish a bottle of wine by herself, which just amazingly beautiful end of panel art of Anya tucking in Yor on the couch with an empty bottle of wine. His internal monologue is basically screaming, "My sister deserves no husband who isn't me."
It's like, okay, we had to get here, didn't we? God damn it, anime.
Yeah, I was hoping that they would sidestep it because we get a flashback of the two of them when they were growing up, and there's that really cute child goes to the parental figure and says, "I want to marry you," when I get it's cute and innocent.
Fortunately, the context that scene comes up in makes it less so, because as he's gotten belligerently drunk, what happens is Twilight has kept his cool this entire time because as a spy, he has learned to never get intoxicated no matter how much alcohol he drinks. Mm-hmm. Direct quote.
Which I think is just called moderate drinking, but okay, go off, King.
No, I think he's saying he can drink any amount of alcohol and not get drunk.
Yeah, given this universe.
They do a cutaway which says, as a spy, he has built an immunity to, I think they use the word immunity to drinking or alcohol or something, or...
That makes sense. Like that, yeah. Because we in one of the side stories, we essentially get told that all assassins are immune to poison.
They have a high tolerance to poison, and then they go on about, the line between poison and medicine is very thin.
But anyway,
listen to your doctors and obey your prescriptions.
What has happened in this is Twilight is maintaining composure. Someone knocks something over, probably Yuri in all honesty, and Yor and Twilight go to clean it at the same time and touch the rag, and their hands touch, and they both back away blushing. And Yuri immediately goes, "You've been married a year and you're still so embarrassed to touch each other?
Kiss
for
right
me."
Prove your love.
And it's great because Twilight immediately goes, "Yeah, I can do this. I've been in fake relationships before."
Yours like, I can't do this sober.
Yours like, "I need to finish a bottle of wine."
She pops a cork on a bottle of wine and just goes, glug, 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 glug.
It is adorable how the roles flip immediately, though, because it's Twilight very much in control, going in for the kiss. "I can do this." And he has like an inkling in the back of his head. "Wait, has Yor kissed anyone? She's being weird to how I'm going forward with this." And then she pushes him away, drinks a bottle of wine, and immediately switches over to Yor just going like, "Yeah, I'm going to seduce the hell out of this guy." Pushes him down on the couch.
Like, he just demanded you kiss. Jeez.
Yeah, she pushes him down on the couch and straddles him. Like, it is
a very intimate panel.
Yeah.
Twilight is thrown off guard, by the way. He's like, "What is going on?"
Oh, my.
And we then get the flashback of Yuri going, "I want to marry you, sister." And she goes, "Well, I better save myself for you then." And that causes him to break back into reality. "No, my sister can't kiss anyone but me." And rushes forward to block them. And essentially,
which is kind of weird because he was the one checking in on his sister to see if she'd found anyone. So this was just an inevitable encounter, right?
Feelings are not always logical, I think is what the vibe is here.
You're not supposed to take it seriously.
In the moment too, like we get prefaced when Yuri is having these emotions. Narrator Kun comes in and goes, "He's very drunk."
He is sloppy right now.
Because what we do get Yuri when he's sobered up a little, what he confirms is not that he doesn't want his sister to be married. He does not think anyone is good enough for her. Yeah, which he does tone down. In the moment, he has a weird emotional reaction, which is, I don't want to see my sister being this sexual creature in front of me, which fair. What Yor was doing in this situation was very inappropriate to do in front of your brother.
Yeah.
Yor smashes Yuri across the room, and he's like bleeding because she went like she's drunk now too.
And she activated full assassin powers.
And it's great because as he's getting up from being like horribly beat, he just goes, "Ah, yes. You didn't want me to interrupt your smooch so badly. You just can't wait to kiss his filthy lips. Of course you're married." Because the running joke of Yuri just believing anything Yor tells him full stop without even questioning it goes through.
Because Yor's excuse for why she hadn't told him that she's been married for a year was, I forgot.
It was a sincere face too, and everyone's just like, "Oh, that sounds about right." Yep.
That's the thing. I'd buy that for Yor. Like, she's not like full on stupid or anything, but she is such an arrogant that I could buy her forgetting that she was married.
Yor is interesting because she's not stupid. She thinks about assassin things very detailedly. She just does not care about anything else.
We just have different strengths, guys. We have different strengths.
It's why their family is so wonderful, because they all have different complementing strengths.
So Yuri's like, I think it's time that I left. Do you want us to call a taxi? No, I'll be fine. It
was not fine.
No, he wasn't.
He almost gets in a fight with some thugs on the way
home.
He
does get in a fight. The next day, he comes in and his, I think it's his coworker or his boss.
Dominic, which is weird. Why does Dominic work? Oh, Dominic doesn't work with the office. He was there as someone's date. That's right.
Yeah. But Dominic's like, dude, what happened to you? And he's like, I think I picked a fight with my sister's husband.
It's hilarious because Yuri's immediate reaction, he knows nothing about Twilight. He just knows that the spy Twilight is his enemy. He has no idea that Lloyd is Twilight. And specifically says, I want to get Lloyd thrown in jail for espionage. Yep. He's abusing his power because he does not like the fact his sister got married.
Which is why it's the joke is it's inevitable. No matter who she ended up with, this would have happened.
It was going to end this way.
My favorite bit is Lloyd checking the apartment for bugs, and he doesn't find any. He's like, I guess he was too drunk to put that in place. And then Yuri the next day is like, I should have bugged the place so I could get some intel. Wait, no, then I would have heard my sister having sex. I don't want that either. Ah!
That was such a funny panel, and I forgot it existed until right now.
He started banging his head on a locker like,
that's right. No. He's telling Dominic about this too.
He's like, so those wounds were self-inflicted.
We do have perhaps my favorite little storyline, just in terms of like showing character growth for Twilight. And this is another situation of I enjoy this for its story potential. Twilight does not look great coming out of this particular storyline. He comes off as much of a heartless bastard as he pretends to be. Because, realizing that Yuri is secret police, he's like, okay, does Yor know this? I need to find out if she does. And I can't tell her how I figured it out. So I need to come up with a surreptitious way to do this. So I'm going to plant a bug on her and listen in on her conversations at work. Okay, it doesn't sound like she knows anything, but I need a definitive answer. Frankie, we're going to dress up as secret police officers and interrogate her on the street.
And like, it's a legitimate
dude. What the? I'm like, dude, what the?
It's a legitimate. Yeah, it's a legitimate security concern, but it's so. And again, it's like, it's kind of a good thing that he's the protagonist, because if this would come off as a completely unlikable asshole, the reason why it's able to keep everybody sympathetic is because of the way it's framed, the lies that they tell each other.
Plus, we get the entire time he's doing this, we get the internal monologue that he is, I want to say paranoid, but that's not really accurate in this sense. Everyone is out to get him.
Yeah, he has an appropriate level of paranoia.
And when they confirm through their little interrogation that she has no idea about Yuri's status as a member of the secret police, Twilight falls silent as Frankie's talking, and he's like, "Oh, what? Are you feeling guilty about this? Come on, man. You know you shouldn't do that. You're a spy." And he's like, "What? No, I'm not feeling guilty. That's crazy." But maybe, because he throws away the disguise, he runs into Yor. Oh, so coincidentally, hey, how's it going, honey? And retrieves the bug, and he's like, "Was that the right thing to do?" And he destroys the bug and throws it away. And it's, like I said, he doesn't come out of this looking great. He doesn't come out of this looking rosy, because this is it is an ass thing to do. Mm-hmm. As appropriate and justified as it is, given his circumstances. And he realizes that, he recognizes that, and he feels conflicted about it. And I'm like, oh, he is learning to love.
It's great, because what's happening is, while he's feeling all this paranoia, Yor's plot line through all of this is she feels inadequate as a wife. Mm-hmm. She's gotten over her feeling inadequate as Anya's mother. Now she feels like she's not doing enough for Twilight or Lloyd. Mm-hmm. So everything she talks about, he's spying on her, is, I wish I was a better wife. And he's like, oh no, she actually just wants to make this facade feel more real.
Oh no. Oh, I'm being so mean.
I'm second guessing her, and all she wants is for this lie to work better.
Yeah, we have another interlude. Yora's on an assassination mission. She misses one. He shoots her in the ass. Shenanigans ensue.
Oh my god, funny. This is the best thing. Anya is so cool in this.
Anya is pretty great in this. She foils a domestic terrorist who is
with a peanut bomb.
With a peanut bomb.
It's so hilarious, because she feels like she's defending Yor with everything she does, but I 100% believe Yor was never in any danger. And the main point about this is Lloyd, aka Twilight, is just like, Yor, we should go on a date together. Doki doki.
Because she was in pain from getting shot in the ass, she had a perpetual scowl on her face, and Twilight was concerned that she was fed up with them.
Apart. And then when she refuses to sit at any of their date activities,
they go to the movies and she stands.
She's just standing. It's unbelievably funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad. It's true.
The poor woman's ass.
But sometimes your butt hurts and you don't want to admit it to your date.
Yeah.
I mean, but you were shot in the ass. This isn't, oh, I have to poop really bad. There's a difference here.
What?
But she can't admit that. She's hiding being an assassin.
She can't admit that. She's a woman. They don't poop.
But no, my favorite panel involves Anya, who, after she defeats because this domestic terrorist, he wasn't trying to do any domestic terror today. In fact, he survived an attack by the Dread Thorn Princess, and he decided that he was going to go straight after that. But lo and behold, he got a job as a waiter at the fancy restaurant that Lloyd and Yor went to, and he recognizes the Thorn Princess. My brother's in hell. This is my opportunity to get revenge for you. And Anya, using all the information she plucked from his brain, completely defeats him. And
she Home Alones him, and it's amazing.
She Home Alones him with his own traps. She even knows the name of his girlfriend, and she says, "Go home and make Catherine happy." And he's like, she dead ass says to this man, "Go home and be a family man." And he's like, "The Thorn Princess is too powerful. She has highly trained child operatives. I'm just gonna continue.
I will quit this life.
I will quit this life."
It's also pretty funny, because when they're going on the date, the reason Anya gets to do all of this is because Frankie was left as the babysitter. And the second Anya says she wants to do anything, Frankie's just like, "I don't care. I got paid. Let's go do it. Sounds like fun."
Yeah. It's amazing. So good.
But anyway, at some point, the manga realized we hadn't made any plot advancement and decided to do it in one chapter.
Yeah, Anya's one of those stars.
Yeah, it's okay. The chapter itself is funny, so I can't fault it. But as a plot progression, there's no lead up. It's just one of these schemes had to work eventually.
Yeah. Though I will say,
it's like she goes for academic excellence. That's a flop. She hates studying. She goes for excellence in sports. She's like not even 6. Her tiny body isn't coordinated enough to do any sports. Maybe she could do some volunteer work at the local hospital. She's too much of a little chaos gremlin. She can't do volunteer work. But thankfully, there's one other thing that can earn you one of the merit stars, and that is a supreme act of bravery above and beyond the call of duty. And Lloyd's like, I could probably arrange something like that with the agency, but it's too dangerous.
More importantly, it will look suspicious if that's where all the stars are coming from. If it happens
multiple times, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But as it so happens, while they're leaving the hospital, a young boy who needs physical therapy was going to the pool to get some swimming in. And he happens to fall in the pool while nobody is watching, and he's drowning. And only with the panicked thoughts reaching Anya's mind is she able to direct the adults to him and save his life.
And like
specifically, she goes by herself because she can't let him know that she's hearing screaming inside her head, "I'm going to die! I'm going to die," which is just a terrifying thought.
Yeah, and like
she can't
the
even
lead
tell.
up to this. Yeah, like the lead up to this is very rushed. But like, you know, she can't tell anyone that she knows someone is drowning in the pool because how do you explain that? And you know, it's very much the case where she's kind of reacting on instinct. She goes to save someone, and when she jumps in the pool, she can't really do anything because she is tiny.
She can't swim either. So,
but
Twilight has to dive in after them.
But more importantly, she does attempt. She dives in to try and grab him.
And had she not, and yeah, she gives the excuse of she wanted to go swim in the pool, and then she saw the bubbles, and that's why she dove in. So, you know, plausible excuse for why she did it. But like the thing that we get coming out of this is she has this epiphany that she can use these powers that have, you know, been a source of such, you know, grief for her to help people. And like that precious smile when she realizes that,
it's
like,
so cute.
I mean, it's cute. It's no but it's pretty cute.
And our wrap-up chapter, the final chapter that we read, is Anya. She got the star, and her
being a little drama queen
about it. Her friend Becky
she's maturing. She is not mature.
Yeah. You will now call me Starlight Anya.
I love the big thing is apparently everyone who sees her wearing it on her chest, everyone's just like, you know, you're not supposed to keep wearing that on your uniform, right? You're supposed to be awarded it and then just keep it. It's hilarious.
She's like, nope, wearing it on my chest.
And
wearing it on my chest. Call me Starlight Anya.
Then Becky, being the notorious bad influence she always is, just like, so you just got thanked for that? Your parents didn't buy you anything extravagant?
Like a pink, like a second house inside the mansion grounds, or a tank?
I mean, what do you want, Anya? You can ask for whatever. I want a peanut. You could probably ask for a lot more than that. A year's supply?
Because Anya is precious and wonderful.
That's probably still too small. A castle? That's definitely too big.
Where would you put it?
Nope, either a year's supply of peanuts or a castle. There's no in between.
Those are the only two things I want.
But she does, but thanks to Becky, she does actually decide on something else.
Mm-hmm. She wants a dog.
Mama, Papa, I want a dog. Well, maybe if we see one on sale.
No, they both think one. No, Twilight thinks that could be a good idea. You know, they're good security, and it'd be good to have around the house. Whereas yours is kind of like, I don't know, they kind of can be aggressive, at least in my experience.
It's hilarious because yours experience is breaking into places, so of course she doesn't like dogs.
Dogs.
Mm-hmm. And she envisions Anya getting eaten by a big Rottweiler or whatever.
Which unfortunately, Anya reads that vision from her mind.
Yes.
And is like, I want a small, cute dog. Okay, I guess a small dog could be good security too. And we have a beautiful panel of yours still not being convinced, with a tiny poodle holding a knife in its mouth, cutting Anya's throat.
And it's
full sip.
They're tricky.
And we end our reading on essentially Twilight saying, I'll see what the agency can provide for us. And we get these panels of these mafia thugs in this dingy kind of cell. And there's a bunch of dogs barking, and we get a shadowed out one. And then we get a close up. And finally, we reveal something that looks like an otter. But I know that has to be their dog because it's on the cover of volume 4.
On the cover of the next volume. They're getting a big floof.
And the dog
The series couldn't get better.
And the dog seems to have some sort of vision of them, so the dog is probably psychic too.
I'm just saying, if the dog also needs to lie about being a dog to be part of the family, it's perfect.
A big floofy cloud dog.
But unfortunately, we didn't read anything about the dogs, which is why Jacob desperately wants to read more.
I really do.
So we're done with this, and we're never reading anymore, right?
What? No.
No.
Let's get into our discussion topics.
So, favorite character, I think we can all comfortably say Anya.
Yeah, I feel like almost we should probably have to do second favorite character, because, like, how do you top Anya?
An objective, fact. I can't dispute that.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, if we had to ask, all three of us would say the main three. Like, I don't think I'd list Anya as my top favorite. I think I would list Twilight as my top favorite, but then it'd be Anya tied with Yor. Like,
and now may her smile haunt your nightmares, and you'll have to make that decision change.
What, did an atomic bomb go off? Who dat?
So I think it'd be more productive to say who outside of the main three is your favorite character. For me, it is, without a single shred of a doubt, it is Henderson, Mr. Elegance Man himself.
Elegance. It's not elegant.
Elegance.
How unelegant to pick him as your favorite.
Yeah.
No, I think, honestly, I'd have to pick Frankie. I love that we get him as, like, the dingy kind, like what you expect a spy to actually be. Not like the novelized, romanticized version that Twilight is. He's the person who's willing to lie and cheat and sell things out, and he's desperately needed by Twilight. Like, plus he's funny, and he's a good babysitter to Anya in that he lets her do whatever she wants as long as he gets to keep the paycheck.
You know, great babysitter. Was there any sitting done? Nope.
Also, I'll give a runner-up just because we didn't mention her. I love Twilight's handler. She does not get enough scenes.
Yeah, she's only just been introduced, so.
Technically, she was involved when Anya got the castle for being accepted in, but like literally her joke is literally just yelling at Twilight for spending so much money.
For renting a castle.
Which I'm also going to be honest, if we see Twilight's handler, she looks like she could have been his wife for the...
Yeah.
When they said all the young female operatives were killed, I don't think that's true.
And seriously, wasn't a majority of her job making sure that this mission was carried out without any, hiccups? What better way to, keep tabs on it than be directly involved?
Well, this mission has had nothing but hiccups, so I don't think that was a requirement. But
that's
Jay
true.
and Jacob.
Yeah.
Honestly, and I'm not even kidding about this, I think the
narration box is top tier.
They are amazing. It's this is
cutting out.
None of that, Jacob.
You're cutting out, Jake.
Oh damn. The concussive therapy. This is fiction. They're sassy, like the narration boxes respond to character. It's just so much fun.
Yeah, the narration box is not immune to pointing out the ridiculousness of the world we're viewing. So actively begging the reader, please don't think this is how reality works.
Do not. This is all fictionalized. These people are crazy.
Please do not make bombs at home.
If you were to twist my arm and say I couldn't pick the narration box as my favorite character, honestly, Becky and Damien really like Damien. Like I immediately liked Becky, and she continued to, despite being such a bad influence, she's still wonderful. But Damien, like, it's not just that I like him as a character, he's a super well written character. Like that they establish him having this crush on Anya, but that they don't overplay it, that they don't he's obviously fighting it.
Yeah, the schoolyard crush on Anya is what made the fact that so many of the Anya scenes have to completely devoid themselves of Twilight and Yor. That little crush makes them funny enough for me to be like, oh, this is going to be 30 pages of an Anya story. I'm not going to miss Twilight and Yor as much because there's going to be this added little fun.
Yep.
Anya really needs someone to play off of as a character in isolation. Because
unfortunately, how the story is structured, Yor and Twilight can basically not be there for her stories a lot of the time. Twilight, kind of, but
he can disguise as a janitor or something and scroll apologize on her thing and omelet. Catch up.
But luckily, every Anya story isn't Twilight sneaking into school. She has her own stories.
Yes. Which is great. And that leaves Jay.
Wow. So since every character is pretty much named, I'll go out there and be different and say I liked Yuri.
I was about to say Yuri hasn't been mentioned at all.
I was almost hoping that would be the illustrate character.
Okay.
Jay, Yuri.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, Jake was cutting out and I was confused.
Oh, was that?
Yeah, that's why I was just trying to move on to...
So I guess just because of a bit of situational irony and the fact that their sibling dynamic is very peculiar, we'll just put it there. Yuri is just...
I love how Yuri was blacked out of the sibling photo initially for some reason, but apparently it didn't matter.
Yeah, that was very odd. But I don't know. Are
Yuri and Yor ethnically Japanese in universe?
Well, Yuri is a Russian name. I don't know about Yor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just guessing because they have black hair compared to the rest of the cast, who typically have more Western styles. But also because when Yor makes breakfast for the family, it's fried tempura shrimp. Like, it's a weird choice, but also Yor's not good at cooking, so maybe that's just supposed to be weird.
I think it's also very much possible that it's a matter of it's a matter of blind spot of the mangaka. Like, they didn't look up Eastern European cuisine or something.
It's weird because the manga's normally pretty good about referring to things as like a Western setting.
That's true. We don't have any vampires walking out feeling someone's evil chi.
Yes.
Yeah. Who knows? But anyway, you were saying about
Yuri.
What about
Yuri?
Who's your favorite side character?
Oh, yes, that Yuri.
Oh, jeez. I mean, we can read that.
Yes, he is my favorite side character, mostly because of the irony of his career. Well, new career, because before he legitimately was a foreign service or a diplomat. And a year or so where he's had to have this shell persona put on.
I think it's established by Twilight that he thinks the changeover to being a secret police officer must have happened recently.
Yeah, because he's really bad at it. I mean, bad at covering that's not his new role.
I mean, he's judged as bad at it by Twilight, who is like a expert spy.
Well,
he's up against the top tier.
Because even when I was reading it, was just like, dude, you don't interrogate anyone like this if it's just a, nonchalant family gathering. People would really think something was wrong with you.
I mean, especially if you're not a secret police officer, you don't threaten to have people executed for defying you.
Exactly. So, I would say even if Twilight wasn't a spy, layman would be like, there's something wrong with that guy.
He got aggressive really fast.
Yes.
You don't touch his sister. Her lips are for me alone.
So my answer is Yuri, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Okay, Jay picked the Syscon as usual. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I'm just saying, everyone else was named. Everyone else was taken. I couldn't say Anya.
Anyway, so I believe that wraps up our our discussion of this delightful manga. I don't think we even need to talk about would you continue reading. We have all been gushing this entire time. You damn well know the answer to that question. And if you ask us on any of our social medias, would we continue reading this? You're being pedantic for the meme. I know you are. I see you there.
How dare you be pedantic for a meme trying to reach out to our social medias at OverMangaCast.
At OverMangaCast on Twitter, on YouTube at youtube.com/OverMangaCast.
Specifically trying to unnerve Sam. How dare you do that? He works hard. He doesn't need you bothering him with your meme responses.
With your comments and likes and subscribes. Yes.
But anyway, I think what we really need to come down to is which of us are actually waiting for us to do a part 2 to read more of this. I'll wait for a part 2, but I have a lot of other things I can read.
We have a lot of part 2s, which is not a bad thing. I
mean, they're getting a big floofy dog. I don't think I'm physically capable of waiting.
That's fair.
I will do my best to wait, if only because the next thing that we are going to be reading is something I've been very much looking forward to, so I will be able to restrain myself. Next Thursday, we are going to be talking about Jujutsu Kaisen, chapters 1 through 18.
Oh, that is what we're reading. I actually completely forgot about that.
We learned something too.
I've been meaning to get into this one for a while, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to show this off to you people. This is a thing I've been following, so cool.
Fantastic. All right, so tune in next week for that. See you all next Thursday. Good night.
Good night,
everybody.